Order! Order!
Now, that's St. Peter. He's the one you've got to worry about. He has the final decision on these things.
I know who St. Peter is. I do a lot for the church. I told you.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you know anything about St. Peter. Be wary.
Don't patronise me. I'm a dedicated churchgoer.
Oh, good for you. Now, the devil's advocate is Jones, over there. She earns commission on how many souls she sends down, so she won't be pulling any punches.
I don't know what she can get on me.
You'd be surprised. There are a few things you're not aware of. The best thing to do is to whiz through this as quickly as possible. Trust me, I've been doing this a long...
Order! I won't have you chattering in my court, Smith. Crack on with your introduction.
Ah, yes, St. Peter, of course. Oh, May Pickering has spent her life doing good deeds, plenty of work for the church, etc., etc. And I see absolutely no reason why she shouldn't be admitted to heaven.
Yes. Well, it's not about what you see, is it? I'll be the one to determine that. Jones, have you anything to say?
Actually, sir, I know it's out of the ordinary, but I'd like to call a witness.
Is that out of the ordinary, Smith?
Somewhat. Usually, possible witnesses are still alive and unable to testify.
Is this really necessary, Jones?
I'm afraid it is, St. Peter. I'm aware it will take more time than expected, but this is an important business. Can we really afford to cut corners?
Go on then, Jones. I'll allow it.
I'd like to call John Pickering to the stand.
My husband.
Oh, dear.
You knew he was dead and you didn't tell me.
Shush.
And he's testifying against me. I don't understand.
Order! Mrs. Pickering, you will control yourself in my courtroom.
Sorry, St. Peter.
Bring in the witness.
Now, Mr. Pickering, May is your wife. Is that correct?
It is.
Would you please describe to the court the circumstances of your death?
I had a car crash.
And would you explain to the court the reason for this car crash?
Well, my wife never turned up to pick our daughter up from school and take her to a ballet class. My daughter phoned me in a state and asked me to pick her up.
And it was on this journey that you crashed your car?
That is correct.
And would it be safe to say that you were preoccupied on this car journey?
It would, yes.
And could you explain why?
I'd had a bad day at work. May was supposed to drop some lunch off at the office for a corporate meeting that was taking place.
And something went wrong with this lunch, I take it?
Yes. She never turned up.
And this left you in an embarrassing position with your employers?
Yes, it did.
That's hardly my fault. I was dead.
So it would be safe to say, then, that your wife is responsible for your death on 2 counts. One being that she did not collect your daughter from school, and the other being that she was the reason you were preoccupied while driving.
Yes, I suppose that's right.
No further questions, St. Peter.
Smith, would you like to question the witness?
Thank you, St. Peter. Now, John, would you like to tell the court why your wife did not do the things that you had mentioned?
Because she was dead, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't find out until I got, well, here.
So she could hardly be expected to fulfil those obligations, then?
Well, no. But I feel that if my wife had been more careful, she wouldn't have died in the first place.
Exactly. I mean, exactly what do you mean by that?
She slipped on some eggs, apparently. I have no idea what eggs were doing on our kitchen floor.
And what is the relevance of these eggs, Mr. Pickering?
Well, personally, I feel that my wife spent far too much time worrying about other people and their problems. If she hadn't been overrun with their errands and favours for others, she would definitely not have dropped eggs on the floor.
So you're saying...
That she neglected us.
But surely she was just trying to help people. Don't you think that your attitude is rather selfish?
Objection! St. Peter, Mr. Pickering is not the one being judged here.
St. Peter, I was just trying to establish that the witness perhaps expected a little too much from his wife.
Yes, I can see what you're getting at, Smith. I will allow it.
Oh, thank you, St. Peter. Now, John, isn't it true that May was a good and faithful wife to you? A dedicated mother to your children?
I think she could have pandered to the kids less. She should have made Jenny eat those poached eggs, and then we wouldn't be in this mess.
But your daughter didn't want the poached eggs. Surely you wouldn't have expected a loving mother to force-feed her daughter?
Of course not. But Jenny likes poached eggs. She would have eaten them if May had put her foot down.
And what was to stop you from putting your foot down?
I was busy, thinking about work. And that's for the good of the family, remember?
Ah, is it not feasible that May was also busy thinking about something that was for the good of the family?
It's possible, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Pickering.
You may leave the stand, Mr. Pickering.
This is ridiculous, Smith. What has this got to do with how good a person I am?
Nothing whatsoever.
And do I get a chance to speak my case?
Yes, you will. Don't worry.
This just doesn't seem fair.
Well, John is probably more concerned about his own salvation. It's possible that Jones has made a deal with him.
That's loyalty for you.
Well, do you feel any loyalty to him?
Actually, no. I don't feel anything for him.
That's what happens. You're not tied to him anymore, you see. These bonds were severed, so to speak, when you both died.
Did you know that John would be testifying?
I had no idea he was even dead. I'm afraid Jones has much better research staff than me.
Why's that?
She earns more. It's a vicious circle.
Less chatter, please. Smith, does Mrs. Pickering wish to respond to the witness's testimony?
No. I mean, yes. Yes, she does, St. Peter. I'd like to call May Pickering to the stand.
Very well.
Now, May, you've heard what your husband said.
I did.
And what is your response to his allegations that you are a selfish wife and mother?
I disagree, of course. I was no such thing.
Would you please expand on that?
Well, I always put my children first. I did my very best to ensure they led happy and fulfilled lives. They were always well cared for. I was a good mother.
Thank you, May.
Jones, have you anything to add?
I do. May, do you deny that you spent a lot of time doing favours for other people?
No, I don't deny that. But I never let it get in the way of my duties as a mother.
But you didn't pick up your daughter from school as you said you would.
I was dead, so I couldn't.
Because you slipped on some eggs.
That's right.
And you dropped these eggs because you were rushing.
No, actually, David, my son, dropped the eggs.
Ah, so your son dropped the eggs?
Yes.
And why did he drop the eggs?
I don't know. It was an accident, I suppose.
And why didn't he clean the eggs up?
Because he was going to be late for school.
And you didn't think that cleaning up his own mess was an important lesson for him to learn?
Well, it was an accident, and he was going to be late.
If he had cleaned these eggs up, you would not have slipped, would you, May?
No, I wouldn't have.
And therefore you would not have died, and you would not have missed picking up your daughter, and your husband would not have crashed his car. You are responsible for your husband's death, May.
Well, I hardly think that
Thank you, Mrs. Pickering. No further questions.
But
I said no further questions.
Mrs. Pickering, you may take your seat now, please.
That didn't go very well.
Well, don't worry too much about it. There's time to turn it round yet.
Thank God for that.
Jones, your turn. What's next?
I'd like to call Jenny Pickering to the stand, St. Peter.